Well, we are super excited.
I am too. I am so tired. It's only 1:30 on a Monday. I'm so glad that I'm here with you and not doing all my annoying administrative tasks and stuff.
Well, I'm going to mop a floor after we're finished, so I will be doing lots of fun things as well. Don't be jealous.
I am so jealous of the both of you.
I know.
I mopped the floor yesterday.
Is anything off limits to talk about? Or do you have a topic you want to talk about?
Why am I worried that you've asked me that?
Well, one time I did, but maybe some drinks occurred. So
I remember when you did. No, nothing's off limits to talk about.
Well, I'm glad you said that because when we were talking about guests, we were like, Berit is just so interesting. We just have so many interesting things we could talk to her about. Hi, I'm Casey, and right here beside me is Kelsey. We are licensed professional counselors, mothers, entrepreneurs, and besties. We know firsthand what it's like to wake up one day and think, how in the heck did I wind up here?
Through our own journeys of self-discovery, we found that joy is something that has to be pursued through internal work. Now we are on a mission to help women from all walks of life understand themselves more so they can have real lasting joy.
Join us every Thursday to hear fun and insightful interviews with experts who can point you toward self-discovery and fulfillment. Before we really get you with a couple of good ones, can you tell people just a little bit more about who you are and what you do? And you just have this really, what seems like a wild and crazy life, and kind of jealous.
Oh my goodness. Coming from you, that is interesting. But yes, currently I'm the CEO and founder of Practice Access, which is the first clinical CRM for mental health professionals. I'm an entrepreneur and a self-proclaimed anti-shame activist. And I also created a technique called Emotive Agility to help people navigate difficult conversations and express their emotions and regulate emotions during those difficult conversations. And I'm also, I like to write about myself a lot as a therapeutic practice.
I need some of that voodoo, like some of the good stuff.
The hoo-hoo?
The hoo-hoo and the voodoo.
She wants the hoo-hoo, Berit.
I get so dysregulated when I'm having hard conversations. I cannot tolerate my own self.
Okay, same for most of my life. And I think I created this technique for myself, even as like a lot of techniques are born. But like, do you get that feeling where you're kind of having an out of body experience because you're observing what you're saying and you're shaking, your voice starts cracking, your face is red, that kind of. I created a rehearsal space for difficult conversations because I realized actors are doing this.
Yeah.
And even though I right now run a software company, my master's degree is in social psychology and theatrical directing.
Yeah.
So that is, you want some of the woo-woo. It is woo-woo, but it's also science.
But it's very cool because you blended all of it together.
I did. I said the actors should not be the only ones who do this. And I don't want to direct theater. I want to direct the theater of everyday life and help people to navigate that. Yeah.
Love that.
That all makes so much sense, just knowing you. I mean, can you imagine having like a conversation or an argument with her?
No.
I can't either. Do you even have people that have arguments with you or hard conversations?
I do, but I'm one of those. I kind of sidestep them, right? Because I was raised on rewards and punishments, and I'm a big people pleaser. So I tend to sidestep those conversations, but I have had them, and I have had to do. I've noticed that my theater training helped me very, very much in getting through them. If I thought about it as something I could prepare my body for, because if you go through something like a difficult conversation with a family member, with a partner, with someone at work, whether you're the manager or you're the employee in that conversation, it can be really scary. You can kind of feel like your bodies and your mind are two different things, right?
Yeah.
I witness Kelsey experiencing that sometimes. And like, it's not funny, but like I feel for her, but I can see how much she is struggling to just keep her shit together in hard moments, like at work, if she has to have a hard conversation with somebody or fire somebody or whatever, she just gets like all tore up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can see it because you know her so well and you can empathize and you know it's happening. And Kelsey, how does it feel? Because I can give you if you want 3 quick tips.
How does it feel?
Yeah.
Like I want to crawl in a hole. How does it feel? Scary. I guess. Yeah, I'm going to go scary.
Yeah. And you were nodding when I was saying like your voice gets shaky, your hands are hot, your face is sweaty. So I think that it takes one to know one, right? And my realization, the thing that clicked for me was that my body, if I shift my voice, I can shift the way I feel. My body is the vehicle that's going to carry me through this. Getting in the right mindset for a conversation, it's not the solution. Maybe it's helpful to get in the right mindset, but that's not the way out, because in that moment, your reflexes are going to kick in. And if that is a type of conversation that scares you, your body is going to do what it's going to do. So why are we worrying about what we're saying? We should be worrying primarily about how we're standing, how
Okay.
we're breathing, how we're speaking. And that, if you like prepare a bit of that, like try it out with different tones before you say it.
Okay.
Like, I need to know why you did that. Or I need to know why you did that. Try it out from like sitting, try it out from standing, try it out with your shoulders back. I need to know why you did that. I'm just making up a line. Or like, I need to.
Oh, this is fun. I love this. Okay, can you practice?
You could pick a neutral phrase or a general phrase.
I really need to know why you did that.
So what if you say it with a super low voice?
I really need to know why you did that.
That was not a low voice.
No.
I really need to know.
And what if you say it the slowest way you can possibly say it?
I really need to know why you did that.
That had a different impact than the first way you said it.
Which way felt better?
Honestly, the slower one kind of sounded better because I'm a racer. Like when I get nervous, I'm like racing to just spit it all out so I can just run away.
Yeah, it sounded more deliberate. It sounded more like you had more time. Like you sounded like you really meant what the F you were saying right there. Yeah.
You know, listen, let me tell you something. I did not know about your technique, but when I have to have a really hard conversation that I'm not, okay, so there's two ways it can go. If I'm like really triggered and super pissed, there's times I just can't, like, I cannot, I'm working on it, but I just can't hold it back. It's just going to come out, and however it comes out, it's coming out. Okay. That's not my preferred method. But if I have to have that really, like I had to have a really hard conversation the other day with somebody, and I honestly sat at my computer and I breathed like for a good 5 minutes, just sitting there, not talking, like not even thinking. I wasn't like practicing what I was going to say or nothing, just breathing. And then when I was speaking to this person, I deliberately spoke as slowly as I could because it's very hard for me to come across angry when I'm speaking slowly. And it actually worked. I mean,
That's it.
that's kind of cool that you come up with that.
And think of the possibilities. Like that is what I call emotive agility, because you connected what you're thinking to what you wanted to feel and the impact the feeling you wanted to transmit.
Right.
So thinking, feeling, and the body, which
Yeah.
was slowing down. Actors do that, speakers do that. They insert pauses. So I think sometimes people say like, I got to regulate my emotions. But what if it was like really specific? Like, I want to show less anger, like in your case, and you knew that if you spoke slowly, you couldn't also show anger. Some people need to show more anger. Like maybe me, maybe I know this because you were like, does anyone ever argue with you? I charm the pants off them and then I dive into the argument, but I try to avoid it. But sometimes you need to show anger more. Sometimes it's helpful to show sadness. And sometimes you really feel sad, but it's hard to show someone that you feel sad because you also have to like set a boundary. This technique that I love, it's a theater technique where we have different emotions and different squares on the floor. And we literally practice, how do I stand and speak and breathe when I'm in surprise? How do I stand and breathe and speak when I'm in anger? And it's like working out your emotions. Then you could do what Casey did and like deliberately apply those levers.
I love that. It's kind of like EFT mixed with like some polyvagal, like how your body really is like, in the driver's seat.
But if you think about it, you do that with your kid. Like, you know what I'm saying? You are able to regulate your emotions through your body. With children, it comes a lot easier because they're little. And so you're more conscious of how your actions are coming across.
Mm.
And I've seen you do it.
Yeah. People pleaser,
Mm-hmm.
Well, you did it when you lowered your chair. You were like, I want to look smaller. I want to look lower. I want to look smaller. And you did it. So you created this dynamic. So it's easier to do it with kids, with other people, than it is to do with ourselves. Like my big realization was that I can call up anger in myself by changing my voice and narrowing my forehead. I can start to feel it. So it's almost like this hack of like, you want to call out that feeling because you know it's helpful for the moment, but instead you feel anxiety or you feel passive and you want to like jazz yourself up. You can actually do that by switching your posture. I mean, we all know body language can impact other people, the way we hold ourselves, if we look confident. We all know that. But the cool part that I think is under acknowledged is we can shift the way we feel with our face, posture, breath, voice.
And how would that help someone who is a fellow people pleaser? For someone that's not a therapist or, just somebody listening that finds himself in that people pleasing loop a lot, are you saying that they could actually take more control over a boundary or over a response by just like feeling it in their body and by how they're sitting or how they're standing or how they're holding their face or where they're putting their hands can help like spark what they need?
Yes. And even faster than trying to convince themselves they don't need to people please and to convince themselves I'm worthy, I should be heard. You can have all those mantras in your head and you should, and we should. I'm not discounting them, but maybe a practical thing to do is imagine a string at the very top of your head is attached to the ceiling. So now when I respond, I'm responding with a pretty straight spine as I make that response. Because maybe when you're people pleasing, you're tending to like kind of lean forward and, so just one string pulling your head straight up. And maybe it's your shoulders are touching the wall behind you when you respond. Maybe you're just shifting the shoulders touching the wall behind you. And that can change. I actually lost my voice over people pleasing. So I can tell you that story.
I want to know.
So I used to be a musical theater kid, which is why I ended up studying theater. And I would get hoarse when I was like 19. If I had like a 2-hour conversation with a friend on the phone, I would like be hoarse by the end of it and sound like a smoker. So I had something called nodules on my vocal cords, which are like calluses. So long story short, my mother found a specialist. Turned out I had vocal surgery to remove these nodules from my vocal cords so that I could sing, because I was singing in musical theater a lot, without losing my voice. And I had a speech therapist for a whole year prior to the surgery, because she was like, you can't just have the surgery and take off the nodes if you're going to keep talking the same way, because this is not a disease. This is not something genetic. You created this because of the way you speak. And so she diagnosed me with 2 things, ETP, eager to please, and NGE, not good enough. And this was my speech therapist. So she said, when you talk to people, you stick your neck out like this because you're so eager that you're cutting off all the air from your vocal cords. And that's why you got calluses. And she said, when you talk to people, you breathe from right up here. Like you want to prove and show them how good you are. So you breathe from your chest and not from your diaphragm. And I was like, that's my problem. That's why I broke my voice.
Wow.
It was wild. It was totally wild. And when I came out of the surgery, I had to speak totally differently. And I noticed that people reacted differently. And I felt a bit more confident just with the physical change.
How did the communication piece impact your relationships? Like after you really understood, hey, I'm a people pleaser, and like having those hard conversations, did that come easy or was that more difficult?
So I don't think I even called it. I didn't even realize I was people pleasing. Like I was like, oh, I have a brand new voice. And now I feel different when I talk. People react to me a little bit differently when I talk. But because of that tedious, torturous, that I don't wish it on anybody, vocal therapy, I started being super hyper conscious of the way I was speaking. So the way it impacted my communication, my relationships was I learned I could prepare. Like I learned that I could change the way I speak. I learned that I could, before I go into a room, think about the way I wanted to say it because of being made so self-conscious of my voice. And I was only 19. So this took a while for me to, even maybe 5 or 6 years before I stopped listening and criticizing my own voice and like making sure I was speaking properly. But the good takeaway, once that self-consciousness kind of went away, was like I learned I could prepare, and I've used that in conversations. Yeah.
I think you actually did some voodoo with us today, or hoo-hoo or cuckoo or something, because you totally dodged the whole conversation that we were about to have upon you.
We're going to need another conversation.
Yeah, we're going to have to schedule another podcast. But I mean, what you're saying is so spot on with people. And I mean, I've never had nodes, but there are messages that I also brought in to my adult life from childhood. I just remember, like, I always had a really soft, higher pitched voice. And my teachers, they would say, stop whining all the time. Like, quit whining. And like my parents, quit whining. And I'm thinking, I'm not whining. Like, that's just my voice. And I remember the older I got, when I started getting into like college type things and being more in like the younger professional space, I was really self-conscious of how I sounded. I know no one likes to hear their own voice, but most people. But I was always super self-conscious of it, almost to the fact that I think I changed my own voice because it feels deeper now than it used to be, all just because of insecurity and things like that. And now I have to talk all the time too. So I also think I'm desensitized and I just don't care. But it was definitely a thing. So I think everything you brought up in this podcast is exactly what people are going to resonate with, because I think everyone feels a little
Me
people
specifically.
people pleasing sometimes, and lack of confidence can come through in how you speak and so many things.
Very much. And if you got that messaging as a child, yeah, that's just like, that was just your lovely little voice and people identified it as whining. Here I come with like the shame constructs that we get kind of put into, like, why was that negative? Because it was high pitched, but then you lowered it deliberately, perhaps. Yeah. And there's science on that too, on the pitch of the voice. Like if we end up asking a question at the end, we sound less. But they've done studies with like doctors and even garbled up sounds of doctors. They have people rate them on credibility, and actually the lower voices, even if you can't understand what they're saying, get rated as higher credibility in studies. So it's maybe, you boosted you inadvertently boosted your credibility, but it's all about being authentic. And that little voice was authentic to you. And you made it your own, but now you made this one your own. Yeah, you made it your own.
What do you think?
Well, I relate to what you were saying specifically. I mean, when I came out and I started dressing more masculine, I should say, people would say, your voice doesn't match your body.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
That was interesting. And like,
I'll be honest, I thought that too when I first met you.
I don't think I ever changed it or tried to drop my voice. Nope, I didn't. But like that inner piece of you, like what sounds bad about it? I don't understand.
Well, and it might not even be that they meant that anything was bad. It was just different.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know we have to wrap up, but I'm such a big proponent of authenticity. Like, I don't think that we should raise or lower our voices in order to make a giant different impact if it's not authentic to us. It's more of like, it's not about going around being fake and changing our voice or changing our posture. It's about, we have a power. People just don't even realize sometimes they have this power to shift their voice, to shift their body language to better align with who they truly are. So if your voice is who you truly are, no matter what you wear, of course it shouldn't be changed or modified, right? No matter what any science says. I'm just such a big proponent of like, if you make any modification to your emotive agility, it needs to be to get closer to who you are. It's a power.
It's an internal piece. Like you should want that, desire that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I sidestepped you said I sidestepped your conversation. I know which conversation you want to have.
Well,
I just don't want to get off this podcast with you thinking that you one-upped me because I knew.
I wrote down rewards versus punishment. That's where I was going to go.
Oh no, I was going somewhere. So it's okay. Another time and day.
2 points for you guys. Hey guys, we're doing this again.
It's okay. Well, I mean, we are so happy that you took the time to come on here and chat with us.
Thank you. This was so fun. I was so excited to do it because I listened to your podcast while I was flying back on a plane. I'm excited for your book launch. I was excited since you launched this podcast.
Thank you. Want to let people know how they can get a hold of you or about Practice Access. Anything you have going on now would be a great time to do it.
The way that people can get a hold of me, I feel like I should say I do have an Instagram for Emotive Agility. So that is out there. They specifically want to talk about difficult conversation. But what I'm actively doing right now is a lot of intake analysis, one-on-one sessions for practice owners to help them kind of get people to a therapist as fast as possible, reduce the administrative burden on the intake team, and then get the business insights they need to scale their practice. That's through Practice Access. It's a website. It's the same handle no matter where you go. And it's AXIS. It is not ACCESS.
All right, besties. We will talk to you next time. Berit, I'm so excited to see you the next time we see you. But until then, later, besties.
Later. If you're enjoying our podcast and would like to hear more from us, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts so we can keep making great content.
Talk to you later, besties.